Okay, welcome Rabbi to another Chazara Shiur. We were going to be learning Sugיא Tes, that's ההוא Gvrא. We will be going through the Gemara and Rashi, the back and forth on the slideshow, and then we will be learning it in Bifnim, Gemara and Rashi. Bonus, today we are going to be learning the first Tosfos that we regularly learn in class. That is a bonus. And that hopefully this video will be very helpful for you to do Chazara and even to learn it and to be very fluent in this piece of Gemara. Last time, if you remember, we finished off the video at 6:59 exactly. A minute before I need to send out the Rebbe response, daily insight. Today it's already after 7 o'clock. We already sent it out and we already have it prepared. So let's start. It'll be a good idea if we start with the daily insight. The Rebbe is writing a letter to a person who asked the Rebbe, what should I do about the fact that I have so many thoughts that are popping into my head the whole time during davening and I can't concentrate during davening. Like you see this fellow in the corner, he's trying to daven, but in the meantime he has emails kind of popping in, he's thinking about emails, thinking about his phone, thinking about his food, thinking about his friends, thinking about the weather, whatever it is. It's always other thoughts popping into his brain. And that happens to every single one of us. So what do we do about it? What should we do? And the Rebbe writes, as for the question of distracting thoughts during prayer, one general advice is to contemplate, that means think deeply, before the prayer on matters which relate to the greatness and kindness of the Almighty. To think about how great Hashem is. He creates the entire world every single second, and He's so kind, He gives everyone life and what they need. And His benevolent divine providence, and Hashem's brachas that He gives through watching over us every single second. And the like, and other things. We should think about all these things about Hashem before davening. Reflecting on these matters will bring about a general inspiration, which will be conducive to a better understanding and appreciation of the meaning of the prayer. So when we think before davening, before we start saying words and then get distracted, think for a second, think for a moment how great Hashem is, and how Hashem runs the world, and how Hashem is so kind to every single creation in this world, and Hashem watches over every single creation in this world. And when we think about all these things, that will help us throughout davening in focusing on who we're talking to. We're talking to such a great king, to such a great Eibishter. We won't get so distracted. Okay, now let's move on to our sugיא. ההוא Gvrא. Before we go on to the sugיא, let's start with the dumbest things that we need to know before going into the sugיא. There's one Yiddish Mukdamis, which is Shuma. What is a Shuma? The translation of Shuma is an evaluation. But what does Shuma mean? Let's say I give Avraham $20. Okay? I give it to him, I lend it to him. Now he uses it, and he doesn't have any money to pay back. So what do? Bezdin goes to his property, to his belongings, and makes a shuma. They evaluate how much is his property worth, and they take away his property. So let's say they say, okay, we see you have a chitas. The chitas is worth $20. We're going to take away your chitas, and I am going to keep the chitas. So that is a shuma. When Bezdin evaluates something and takes it away to pay back a loan. That is a shuma. Okay. Our Gemara starts off with ההוא Gvrא. There was a person. There's a mafkid, and he gave his nose rings, his kifi, to the shomer to watch. Later on, he comes back, the mafkid comes back to the shomer and says, where's my kifi? Give me my kifi. And the shomer says, I don't know, where I put it. I don't know, I was in and out, I was all over the place, and I put it down somewhere, I don't know where I put it. So, what should they do? So they came in front of Rav Nachman. They asked Rav Nachman, what should we do? And Rav Nachman said, this situation, if I don't know where I put it, is a pshia, is negligence. The mafkid gave it to the shomer to watch and to make sure that he has it the whole time. He doesn't know where he put it. That's called not doing a good job. Not being a good shomer. That's called negligence. Zil shlim, go pay. Now, as a side note, if you're going to ask me why isn't it just a case of aveda, of losing it, is because aveda means when I put it on my shelf and I can't find it anymore. Like, I know where I put it, but it's lost, misplaced. Someone maybe moved it or something like that. But over here, the shomer himself doesn't, I don't know where I put it. Sir, that's what I asked you for. I asked you to watch it. Part of watching it means knowing where it is. You don't know where it is, that's chill, that's negligence. You didn't do your job right. Go pay. Okay, but what happened? Continue, the story continues. Let's continue on with the story. Lo shilem, the shomer didn't pay. Said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not paying. So they went back to Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman, Agbeila Padnim, he took away the shomer's palace and gave it to the mafkid. Okay? So the kifi was worth $10 million. The shomer didn't know where it is. He needed to pay $10 million. He didn't have it. He didn't have the kifi. So Rav Nachman took away his palace that was worth $10 million. Okay? Now what happened? L'soif, at the end of the story was, L'soif at the end, they found the kifi. L'soif ishtakach kifi. At the end, the shomer found the kifi. And the shomer, and what happened to the kifi? The ayakor, the kifi went up in value. It went from $10 million, it went up in value. The gold and the diamonds became more in value, and it went up to $20 million. So now the shomer wants to keep the kifi. I get now an extra $10 million because my palace was only worth 10. Now I have 20. If I sell this right now, I'll make 20 million, not just 10. So he wanted to keep the kifi. So what did they do? They came in front of Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman said, "Hadri kifi l'marayu, give the kifi back to its owner, v'hadram apadna l'mara, and give back the palace to its owner." That is part number one. That is the story that happened. Let's move on to part number two. Rava tells us. Rava says, I happened to be sitting there when this story happened. I was sitting by Rav Nachman. And at that time we were learning Parak HaMafkid, which is our Parak. Rava was learning the same Mishnah that we are learning. And he had a Moedik Kasha from our Mishnah. In our Mishnah says that if there is a shomer who lost an object, and shilem, he pays v'lo yiratzah lishav, and he does not want to swear, the Mishnah paskins that the shomer, if he pays, he gets the kefo. So 1 second. Rava asked a question. Rava asked Rav Nachman, 1 second. Hey, our Mishnah says that if the shomer pays, then he gets the influx, which in this case, what goes up in value, what becomes more kefo. So why over here the shomer paid? He paid with his palace. Why doesn't he get the influx? Why didn't he get the extra $10 million, the ayakor? Why doesn't he get it? Seemingly from our Mishnah, it sounds like that if the shomer pays, he gets the influx. But over here, Rav Nachman Paskin, he doesn't get the influx. And Rava said, and by the way, Rav Nachman did not answer my question. He ignored me. And it's actually a very good thing that he ignored me, because he wanted me to come up with the answer myself, and I did. It's a very simple difference. Says Rava, what's the answer? Answered Rava, over here, in this case, the shomer was matriach the mafkid, meaning he gave the mafkid a big hassle to schlep him to the Torah and to make him pay and to take away his palace. Atrichei, he made him a big tircha, made him a big hassle, gave him a big headache to take him to Beis Din and take away his apartment. So after giving this whole headache, I'm sorry, you don't get to keep the extra 10 million. But in the case of the Mishnah, lo Atrichei, he did not schlep him to Beis Din. He did not give him, the shomer paid right away, and he didn't give the mafkid a tircha, a hassle to go to Beis Din. And therefore, in the Mishnah, the shomer gets the influx. Now, that is part number two. We had the story about Rav Nachman, we had the question and answer from Rava. Now comes part number three. Before we go on to part number three, there's a concept called Shumah Hadar. We know what Shumah is, right? When the Beis Din takes away Avram's chitas and gives it to me instead of my money, because Avram owes me money, okay? Now there's another idea called Shumah Hadar. Does the Shumah go back? Why would it go back? Let's say in 6 months' time, finally, Avram comes up with the money and he says, Rabbi paid, here's the money, can I get my chitas back? The question now is, does Shumah Hadar, does the chitas go back to Avram and the money go back to me, or not? I can tell Avram, I'm sorry, Avram, I like your chitas, I use it every day, it's very convenient, keep your money, I'll keep your chitas. So now, the case of Shumah Hadar is, I gave money to Avram. Avram did not have money to give it back. So Bezdin took his chitas and gave it to me. And now he has money to give back and he wants his chitas back. The question is, do we give back the chitas or not? So, the Gemara suggests, let's try to say, which is a havamina, which is a suggestion, which is going to be disproven. Let's try to say that we learn out of the case of Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman holds that Shuma Hadar, that evaluation goes back. How do I see that from Rav Nachman? Because Rav Nachman paskind, Hadri kifi l'marayu, give back the kifi, the nose rings to its owner, v'hadra padna l'marayu, and give back the palace to its owners. So the Gemara asks, l'meimra, let's say, the savar that Rav Nachman holds, Shuma Hadar, an evaluation. This palace that we evaluated and took away from the shomer, let's say that Rav Nachman holds Shuma Hadar, Shuma goes back, because we said that the palace goes back to the shomer. And for the Gemara, no. Actually, you can't learn out of Rav Nachman's story whether Rav Nachman holds Shuma Hadar or Rav Nachman does not hold Shuma Hadar. Because this case is not a normal case of Shuma. Why is this case not a normal case of Shuma? And for the Gemara, Shuma b'tov savo. It was, this whole evaluation was one big mistake. It wasn't a regular evaluation. Why was this not a regular evaluation? The kahava kifi meikara. Because the shomer had the kifi the whole time. All he needed to do was just look for it. He had it the whole time. If Beis Din would have known that the shomer had the kifi all along, then they would have just told the shomer, go look for it and bring it. But the Beis Din thought that he can't find it because he lost it. Shomer, you lost it, and you can't pay it back. We're gonna make a shuma. We're gonna evaluate and take away your property. But really, were they supposed to take away his property? No. Why? Because he actually had it. It's not that he lost it. He actually had it. So, in a regular case of a shuma, the Gemara's answer is, in a regular case of a shuma, maybe you could say that, look, I gave Avram money. I took his chitas. It's like a sale. I bought his chitas. But in this case of Rav Nachman, you can't say the same thing because this is not really a good shuma. You took it away by mistake. You took it away because you thought he didn't have it, but really he did. So you can't really understand from Rav Nachman. You can't really learn out from Rav Nachman one way or another, because this is a very weird and interesting case of shuma. It's not the regular case of shuma. So you can't learn anything out of it. So again, the Gemara tried learning out the din of Shuma Hadar. That Rav Nachman holds Shuma Hadar, Shuma goes back. And the Gemara says, no, actually, you can't figure it out from this case. This case is not a regular case of Shuma. That is part number 4. And now we move on to, that's part number 3. Now we move on to part number 4, which says, what is actually the halacha? Shuma Hadar, does Shuma go back? Or Shuma Lo Hadar, or does a Shuma not go back? But before then, let's go on to dinim that we learned out so far. Number 1. If a shomer says, I don't know where I put it, just wait until I locate it, he is a paisheya, he's negligent. And he is chayiv immediately. Din number 2. A shomer that pays for the object acquires any influx, profit, or increase in value that may come from the object. Again, if the shomer pays, he gets any money that's now more. Number 3, if the shomer does not pay easily, he does not get the influx. Rather, he will have to return the item when it is found, together with any influx. Just like the kifi, he gives back the kifi even though the kifi went up in price. Okay. Now, like I said, we're going to try to find out what is the din of shuma. So what the Gemara did, the Gemara looked to see what did they paskin in the big yeshiva. Where was the big yeshiva? The big yeshiva was in Nahardoi. And let's talk for a moment a little bit about the history of Nahardoi. Nahardoi was in Bavel, a city in Bavel, which is nowadays Iraq, which is approximately right over here. And up north of Iraq is Syria, which is important to remember for a little bit later. When did Yidden start moving to Nahar Doi? So already in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, Yidden started moving to Nahar Doi. Why did they already go to Nahar Doi? Because the Golus was already starting, already during the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, already Golus Bavel was already starting. And Melech Bavel sent into Golus Yechoniah Melech Yehuda. We read in the Megillah that Mordechai HaTzadik went to Golus together with Yechoniah Melech Yehuda, because there was a big group of Yidden that were sent into Golus together with Yechoniah Melech Yehuda, and they were sent to Bavel. Where did they settle down? In Nahar Doi. So already during the time of the Bayis Rishon, there were already Yidden living in Nahar Doi. In fact, when they left, they took with them dirt and stones from Yerushalayim, from Ir HaKodesh, and when they came to Nahar Doi, they built the shul with these stones and with this earth in it. Meaning they laid these stones as the foundation, so their shul had a part of Yerushalayim with it. That's why you'll hear many shluchim that want to build their Beis Chabad, and they want to have like a brick from 770, or a bench from 770, or a piece of a bench, or things like that, because they want to have the Kedusha of 770 with them in their Beis Chabad. Now, when they settled down in Nahar Doi, they built a humongous shul. And that shul was known as Shaf V'Yasiv. It stood up and it sat down, because the big congregation of the Yidden stood up from Eretz Yisrael, which is right here, and they moved and they sat and they dwelled in Nahar Doi. This shul actually lasted for 1,500 years, which is a very, very long time, until it was destroyed, like we'll learn a little bit later. Another thing we know about Nahar Doi is that already in the end of the second Beis HaMikdash, Rabbi Akiva was sent to Nahar Doi, because that's where the big Sanhedrin was. He was the Nasi, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, sent Rabbi Akiva all the way to Nahar Doi to be Me'aber Hashana, to make the year into an Iber yard, to add an extra Adar, because it was already close to Pesach. It was close to Pesach time, and they saw that it's not yet warm, it's not yet spring. We need to add an extra Adar. So in order to do that in the middle of the year, you need to go to a Sanhedrin, and there's a big Sanhedrin in Nahar Doi. So the Nasi, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, sent Rabbi Akiva all the way to Nahar Doi to travel and do Iber Hashana in Nahar Doi, by the big Sanhedrin over there. The Nahar Doi became the center of all Yidden throughout the whole Bavel. Throughout the whole Bavel, they used to send their machzah shekel, they used to send their donations for the Beis HaMikdash, for the second Beis HaMikdash. They used to send it all to Nahar Doi, and from Nahar Doi they would send it to Eretz Yisrael for the Beis HaMikdash. In fact, they would have to send a caravan of thousands of people to guard all the money that was being transported, because of all the Persian bandits and gangs that were along the way that could have stolen from them. So they would send thousands of people together to protect this big shipment of money and donations and machzah shekel all to the Beis HaMikdash. Eventually, Shmuel, this is already in the time of the Gemara, Shmuel opened up a yeshiva, calling it a mesifta. This is the first time that we know of the term mesifta referred to. Shmuel opened up a mesifta, which was a place of learning, a place where there were shiurim of learning. It's in various places of Gemara, it mentions Asra de Shmuel, the place of Shmuel. And where was the place of Shmuel? It doesn't say, but we know that the place of Shmuel is Nahar Doi. On the contrast, Asra de Rav, as we know, Rav and Shmuel were at the same time. Asra de Rav, the place of Rav, was in Surah, was more north up. This was Surah. So anytime in Gemara where it says Asra de Rav or Asra de Shmuel, we know Asra de Shmuel is Nahar Doi, Asra de Rav is Surah. Now, going many years later, to the time when Nahar Doi was destroyed, there were a bunch of rebels from Surah. They were being led by Papa Bar Netzer, and they were going and conquering city after city. Nahardoi used to be a very strong and fortified city. But at this time, the city was so run down, and there was so much dirt and so much earth that the huge doors of the city that used to be locked at night, they weren't able to close anymore. You know why? Because the bottom of the first half of the doors was all earth. The earth piled up. The dirt and the earth piled up halfway up the doors, and people would just walk on top of it in through the gateway, that they weren't even able to close the doors. But anyway, Papa Bar Netzer and his bandits and his rebels, they came and they conquered and they destroyed everything. They knocked everything down, they destroyed everything, including the shul of Shavi Yosef. But Abaye, it says in Maseches Yavamis, I believe, that Abaye used to go back to Nahardoi, used to travel back to Nahardoi every so often, and daven next to the remains of Shavi Yosef, of that shul. After Nahardoi was destroyed, after the city was destroyed, the center of Torah moved to a bunch of different places, like Mechuzah, to Surah, where that was the place of Rav, Pompedisa, and Mesamachsa. That's all about a little bit of the history of the city of Nahardoi. Now, going back to our Gemara. Our Gemara wanted to know, what did they paskin in the big yeshiva in Nahardoi? Does a shumah, does an evaluation go back to its owner? Does it go back to Avram? If Avram now has the money? Or not? I could say, no, it's already mine. I use it. I gave you money. You gave me the chitas. It's like a sale. It's like I bought it. I use it every day. I like it. I wrote some notes in the Chumash and in the Tanya, and I'm keeping it. Sorry, bye. Have a nice day. So what do they paskin in Nahardoi? Shuma Hadar or Shuma Loy Hadar? Zog the Gemara. Amri Nahardoi, they say in Nahardoi that Shuma Hadar, a Shuma goes back ad Tresar Yarchi Shasa, until 12 years, the 12 months of a year. For 1 year, Avram could come back to me and ask me for his chitas back, and give me back my money. After 1 year, I already got so comfortable with it, and I got comfortable with the fact that I have it, I'm keeping it, that I'm sorry, you can't come back to me now and ask me for your chitas. I'm sorry, it's not right. I already got so comfortable with it that it's mine, that I'm keeping it. I want to keep it. I'm not giving it back to you. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Meimar said, Ano min Nahardoi, I am from Nahardoi, and I say, Shuma Hadar Lo Olam. A Shuma evaluation goes back forever. Any time Avram wants to come and get his chitas back, he can do so, and I need to give it back to him. And the Gemara concludes, Hilchasa, and the halacha is, Shuma Hadar Lo Olam, a Shuma goes back forever. What's the reason? Mishum Shenamar, because it says in the pasuk, Vasisa Hayashar V'Hatov. You shouldn't just do what's law and what's logic. You should do more than the law. You should do Lifnim Shuras Hadin. Shuras Hadin means the code of law. Lifnim Shuras Hadin means more than the code of law. You should do better than the law. Plus, where do we learn out the idea of Lifnim Shuras Hadin from? Vasisa Hayashar V'Hatov. You should do what's straight and what's good. What's more than straight. What's better than the law. And with that, we complete this sugya. Let's learn the Gemara inside. Here we go. ההוא גברא. Before we start, make sure you have the Gemara with you and try to say the words together with the taich. It will help you tremendously. It will really help you too. ההוא גברא. We're going to read a little bit of a quick pace because this is a chazar. ההוא גברא. There was a man, the afkid kifi, who deposited his nose rings, gabe chavrei, by his friend. Omar lei said to him, the mafkid said to the shemer, havli kifi, give me my nose rings. Omar lei said to him, lo yodaina, I don't know. Heichos vino, where I put it. Also, they came in front of Rav Nachman. Omar le, and he said to him, Kol lo yadaina, any case of I don't know, anytime the shemer says I don't know where I put it, Shiusei, it's a negligence. Zil shlim, go pay. Loy shlim, but he didn't pay. Also, Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman went, Agbe, and he demanded, La Padme, to his palace, minay from him. Now comes the end of the story. L'soif at the end. Ishtakach kifi. They found the nose rings. Ve'ayakor, and they went up in value. Omer Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman said, Hadrei kifi l'marayu. Give back the nose rings to its owner. Ve'hadrei apadna l'mara, and give back the palace to its owner. Before we go on to Rava, let's do the Rashi. Kifi is Atrichei. What does kifi mean? Kifi means nizamin, nose rings. Next Rashi, Vayakar, and it became more valuable. What's the problem if it became more valuable? Yoser, more al hadamin than the money. Shapor al ba'olim that he paid to the owner. The shomer paid $10 million. Now the nose rings went up in value, and it's worth more than 10 million. It's worth 20 million. Let's go back to the Gemara to Amar Rav. Amar Rava said, Hava Yesivna, I was sitting Kamed Rav Nachman in front of Rav Nachman, Upirkin HaMafkid Hava, and we were learning Perak HaMafkid, Ve'amri Lei, and I said to Rav Nachman, Shilem V'lei Ratzal Yishava, he paid and he didn't want to swear. So what's the question from that? Let's look at Rashi. Let's go straight to Rashi. Hava Yesivna, I was sitting. When was I sitting? Kishedon, when he judged, Din Zeh, in this case. Upirkin HaMafkid Hava, and it was Perak HaMafkid. What does it mean? It was Perak HaMafkid. Ube Perak Zeh, and in this Perak, we were dealing with, we were busy with, we were learning. The Amri, and I said to him, Shilem V'lei Shava, he paid and he didn't want to swear. So what's the kasha from the Mishnah? In the Mishnah we see, when the shomer paid, he gets the kefil. Kotani Basnis, and it says in the Mishnah, the Kani Kfela, that he gets the kefil, he gets the influx, which is kefil. The Hai Nami Shilem, and this person also paid. Velikne, and he should acquire Rivcha, the profit, the Ayakar that went up in value. Why doesn't the shomer get the kifi, get to keep the kifi? Why doesn't he get to keep the Ayakar? Let's go back to the Gemara. And Rava continues to say, V'loy Yahadarli. V'loy Yahadarli. He didn't answer me. Rav Nachman did not answer me. V'shapi Rabba, then he did good, V'loy Yahadarli, that he didn't answer me. My time, what's the reason? Hossam over there, Loy Atrichei Leveidino. He didn't hassle him to the Torah. Haha, over here, in this case, in the story of Rav Nachman, Atrichei Leveidino, he hassled him to Beis Din. And since he hassled him to Beis Din, that's why, since he gave the mafkid such a headache, that's why, I'm sorry, Mr. Shomer, you don't get the influx. Next part of the Gemara. The Gemara asks. So before we go on to the next piece of the Gemara, let's do the Rashis. Let's learn the Rashis. Actually, there are no Rashis. So let's continue. Let's say the Sabar of Nachman, that Rav Nachman holds the Shumah Hadar, that a evaluation goes back to its owner. If he has money to pay, it could go back. And for the Gemara, Shani Asam, no. Over there is different. The case of Rav Nachman is different. The Shumah B'Tov is Hava because it was a evaluation by mistake. Why was it an evaluation by mistake? The Kahava Kipim Meikara, because he had the nose rings from the beginning. So, and Rashi is going to explain why that makes the whole evaluation a mistake. Let's look at Rashi. The Shumah Hadar, Rashi the Bramaskal, the Shumah Hadar, and if you need to pause the video to get the place, do so, please. The Shumah Hadar, that evaluation goes back, what does that mean? And how does that apply to our case? Nifsei Loivan, the belongings of the Loivan. Sheshamu Beis Din, that Beis Din evaluated Lebal Chayv for the owner of the loan. The owner of the loan is the Malva, the lender. Chayzin love, go back to him, go back to the Loivan. Im nice and moist, if he gives money Lebal Chayv to the Malva. Ki hacha, just like here, same thing over here. The Hadar, the Apadna Lamara, that you give back the palace to its owner. So the same way over here, the palace goes back to its owner. Similarly, maybe any case when someone owes money and Bezdin takes something away from him, maybe that thing can go back to the Loiva. Next Rashi, the Shumah B'Tov Zava was an evaluation by mistake. The Sabur Haya, because they thought, because he thought, the Shemer thought, She'ovdu Hanazam, that the nose rings were lost. And they weren't lost. He had them the whole time. The hava kipi meikar, because he had the kipi from the beginning. Sharei b'tchilas hashuma, because at the beginning of the evaluation. Hayu and Zamin the Yodei, the nose rings were in his hand. The loy hoya yodeya, and he didn't know that was in his hand. The ilu yodeya, because if he would have known shekain that it was in his hand, loy shamu loy hatraklin, they wouldn't have evaluated and they wouldn't have taken away his palace. So that's why in that case, the whole evaluation was a mistake, because they didn't know that he actually has it right now. But avol shuma shebeis din shami, but a evaluation that the beis din evaluate. Al she'ein loy mois, because a person doesn't have money. V'hu chayav lo yani, is obligated to him. Let's say Avram is obligated to give me money. Harehu kemecher gomer, it's like a complete sale. The eino chayzeres, and that does not go back. Maybe we can say that the Rav Nachman's case and a case of a shuma is different. That by a regular case of borrowing money and they take away Avram's chitas, that's a good sale and it does not go back. Let's continue the Gemara to the third part. What did they say in Nahardoi, in the big Yeshiva in Nahardoi? What did they say about Shuma Hadar? Zog the Gemara, Amri Nahardoi, they said in Nahardoi, Shuma Hadar, Shuma goes back, add until Tresar Yarchi, 12 months, Shasa of a year. The Omar Ameimar, and Ameimar said, Anam in Nahardoi, no, I am doch from Nahardoi, I am from Nahardoi, I am. Double ocean. I am from Nahardoi. Usvirali, and I hold Shuma Hadar Loilam, that a Shuma goes back forever, no matter when. The Hilchasa and the halacha is Shuma Hadar Loilam, a Shuma goes back forever. Mishum shenemar, because it says in the pasuk, V'asisa hayasher v'hatov, you should do what's right and what's good. Now, I said in the beginning that we're going to do a bonus. We're going to do the Tosfos. So let's go right ahead without wasting any time and let's learn the Tosfos. The Gemara had a kasha. Sorry, Rabbi had a kasha, if you remember. Rabbi had a kasha. In the Mishnah, if the Shomer paid, he gets the influx, the kefil. Over here in the story of Rabbi Nachman, if the Shomer paid, the Shomer actually paid, he doesn't get the influx, the ayakar. And Rabbi answered that over here the difference is because over here he hassled him to Beis Din, and over here he didn't hassle him to Beis Din. So since over here he hassled him to Beis Din, he does not get the influx. Frek Tosfos, we learned in Maseches Baba Kama, Rava says that if someone swears, if a shomer swears, and he goes through the whole hassle of Beis Din to make the shvuah, because making a shvuah is quite a hassle. So if someone hassles the mafkid to make a shvuah, and the mafkid doesn't get paid back, but later, and afterwards, the shomer did pay, Rava says over there that he is kind of the kefil. Even though he made this whole hassle, he still gets the kefil. So Frek Tosfos, how could Rava say that the reason why you don't get the kefil is because of the hassle? Over here he says, even though the shomer made a hassle, still gets the kefil. So over here in the Mishnah, he didn't cause a hassle, he gets the kefil. Over here he did cause a hassle, he does get it. He still gets the kefil. So how can we say that over here, because he created a hassle, that's why he doesn't get the influx? Why not? Doesn't make sense. And Tosfos answers, it's very simple. It's a very simple difference. Over here in the Mishnah, and also in Baba Kama, the shomer paid willingly. However, in the story of Rav Nachman, it was not willingly. In fact, the Beis Din needed to take away the palace from the shomer. And that's why, because it's not willingly, that's why the shomer does not get the influx. Let's learn the Tosfos quickly inside. Tosfos the Bramasko Atrichei. Atrichei lebeidina. He hassled him to Beis Din. And Tosfos goes straight to the answer. The loy dummy, because it's not similar to the case where the shomer was matriach the mafkid. For a shvuah, the katani, the kani kfela, that he acquires the kefil l'Rava according to Rava, kisha shilim achakach, when he paid afterwards. If the shemer swore and he made a whole hassle and then he paid, then according to Rava he gets the kefil. So even though he made a hassle, he still gets the kefil, like we learned in Masechus Bava Kama. But why is that different? Why is it not similar? Why is it loy dami like they just said? Why is it not similar? The hasam, because over there, in the case of Bava Kama, mishalim b'tzayna, the shemer is paying willfully. Avol Rav Nachman, but in the case of Rav Nachman, hutzrach likvois apadnoi, he had to demand his palace. And with that, we conclude the sugya together with the Tosfos. I hope this video helps you out. Tremendously in learning the Gemara, chazering the Gemara b'fnim especially, and the Tosfos, and chazering the Tosfos, and I really hope that you benefit a lot from it. And remember that we are Chassidim of the Rebbe. We are Bachrim and Tem Chetrimim. We are Talmidim and Tem Chetrimim. The Rebbe Rashab's Yeshiva, being that today is Chav Cheshvan. Through every time we learn Torah and we kachem Torah, we give the Rebbe Nachas, and we are bringing Mashiach closer. So keep it going. Don't stop learning, and don't stop keeping doing mitzvahim and more mitzvahs until we are zeicha to Mashiach, hopefully right now.